everybody, and welcome. My name is Moretti, and this is Theo, and I'm very excited today to be interviewing Theo about his practice. Theo is a experienced Huachumero, and he has been working with this plant medicine for a very long time, both him and his partner Gary. So I've personally experienced the power of their ceremonies, and I feel really blessed to be able to bring that to you today. So I'm going to be using some notes because this is my first time, so I am a bit nervous, and I don't want to miss anything. So firstly, thank you for taking the time today. I would really love to know more about the plant medicine itself, Huachuma, also known as San Pedro. So if you can tell me a little bit about the history here in Peru, where it's naturally grown, that would be really great.
Okay, so Huachuma San Pedro comes from a cactus. Usually we use the scientific name is Trichocereus pachanoi, and this cactus contains mescaline and about 10 or 12 other alkaloids that work synergistically. This medicine has been used for healing for thousands of years to pre-Incan cultures all around the Andes. The earliest evidence is found in Chavin, which is around 800 to 1200 BC, where they would use this cactus to see the future, to heal, to get agreements on like political, tribal issues and all that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's always been used as a healing plant, as a divination plant, as a way of aligning one's energies to higher consciousness, basically.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, I don't know a lot about Chavin, but what I do know is that it seems to have raised the consciousness of that, civilization, and they didn't even have tools. They didn't have weapons even at that period of time. So
yeah.
That's really interesting. So for you personally then, how did you find Huachuma? When did you come to Huachuma, Theo?
So I came to Huachuma in January 2013. I suffered from heroin addiction, alcohol, depression, social anxiety, all kinds of things. And the Huachuma pretty much saved my life. It was easier than other plant medicines as well to jump into because I was basically straight out of a methadone treatment and into ceremony, and there's a lot less counterindications with this plant. And even though I had to go through the withdrawal process, the plant kind of gave me the willpower and the light to be able to go through that, because it was very difficult. 3 weeks of weaning off the opiates.
Wow, that's amazing. And it's interesting too, because I think, for me, I heard about ayahuasca before, and I think there's quite a lot out there now about ayahuasca for treatment like addictions, but not so much about the power of Huachuma. So you're essentially saying that Huachuma is as powerful, if not more so, with addictions?
For sure, addictions and also other things, and it's a little bit easier to work with. Ayahuasca can be very foreign, intense, and even in some cases a little bit traumatizing because of how intense the visions, the ceremonies are. So Huachuma is a better introduction to plant medicine, and it's just as healing, it's just as insightful, it's easier to integrate as well. And something about the cactus too, it alkalizes the body, and a lot of disease, like physical disease, thrives in acidic environments.
Absolutely.
And the cactus balances the pH of your body.
Wow, that's fascinating. So your own experience then was to use that medicine, and you ended up then, would I say, being trained, being taught by the plant itself?
Yeah. In the first year and a half, I stayed to volunteer to the retreat center I originally came to, So it's learning how to work with people, work in ceremony, and the plant started calling me to cook it and to start working with it myself. And I ended up renting a little house in the Sacred Valley and started cooking my own medicine and drinking it and putting all the teachings into practice. And that's pretty much when Gary came to live with me too. And we both aligned on the same path.
And so Gary is your Huachuma partner,
Yeah.
and also a very experienced Huachumero, an amazing person, both of you, to work and to see you work together synergistically was pretty special. So you both cook the medicine. Can you talk a little bit about how that process happens?
Yeah. It's a long process to cook this brew we make. It takes about 35 to 40 hours because we spend a lot of time for one refining the cactus, because the cactus itself contains, you could call it rubber. It gives you a lot of nausea and it's hard to digest. So we'll cut up all the cactus and put it in a big pot and cook it for 8 or 9 hours the first round.
Wow.
And that's just basically taking all the alkaloids into the water. And we do that a few times, and then the last part of cooking is basically reducing the medicine, concentrating it. In that process, all the rubber comes up to the surface, so that you're left with a very strong, very easy to digest medicine. And the whole time it's being cooked, it's being sang to, it's being prayed into. It's a very, very special, very strong process, just the fact of cooking it, and we take it very seriously, because we know that all the energy we're putting into the brew will then be ingested by the people that drink it.
So it's very intentional then.
Yeah.
That's blessing essentially. That's beautiful. And just mentioning, Gary, that you both do that and you both work together, and you know, I think we're dealing with a Celtic and Irish accent here, so I thought maybe one accent is enough to deal with. Gary's actually got a very thick, beautiful Scottish accent, but I would like to, you know, bring that up actually because we're here in Peru. It's a Peruvian medicine. It's a very ancestral medicine. But I'd like to speak to that elephant in the room about, you know, us two white people here sitting down discussing plant medicine. My feeling personally is that, you know, all cultures have a lot to contribute. We're all tribal people, essentially, have come from tribes, and that at this point in time we're transcending cultural barriers or boundaries, or, you know, we talk a lot today about cultural appropriation. So I'd like maybe if you could address that, Theo, please.
Yeah. For one, the plant kind of picks who's going to work with it. It's not something we really have a say in. In this day and age, a lot of people want to be shamans, want to be maestros, because it's becoming a big industry in a way, and it's a bit sad to say it like that. But I've noticed a lot of people aren't necessarily called to do this for the right reasons. And it doesn't matter where you're born, what color your skin is. There's good and bad people everywhere. In my own understanding of it, the medicine wants people that are dedicated, that are doing it for the healing above anything else, and it really doesn't matter where you're from. And if you actually also look at the history of Peruvian culture and the kind of myths and legends about this place, a very, very long time ago, there were people with white skin and blonde hair that kind of brought a certain kind of magic to this land. And the Incas were actually waiting for these people to come back when the Spanish came. And there was a bit of confusion with that.
Wow.
But I think the history of the world is very, it's hard enough to figure out what happened yesterday. So, let alone what happened 300 years ago, and everybody's human, you know, we're all in this together, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. And it really is about your dedication to helping people, you know, and if the plant picks you and you're born in the West, it's the plant calling you. And also in my own experience, I've worked with a lot of native indigenous Peruvians, some of which are amazing masters. And I also have always noticed that they don't really understand where we come from, because they were born in the jungle.
Yeah.
Or born up here, and they're not from the world we are from, of like so much anxiety, so much depression, so much the modern world basically. So it's helpful for people sometimes to have a bridge, a shaman that actually understands their culture, understands their language.
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
Because you can kind of go deeper in some ways.
Yeah, exactly. Because a person, you know where I'm coming from as well. You know the background and the conditioning and the external focus really in the materialistic world that we live in. And we know many people, I think, who have exceeded expectations materialistically and are still very empty, very, you know, that dark night of the soul is a very real thing. So let's see, what else do I have to ask? Oh yes, because the actual day, the whole day of the ceremony, from start to finish, and also, you know, the way that you guys specifically do that work is very unique. And I'm thinking specifically about the sound healing. Both you and Gary are both musicians and artists. You paint beautifully. So I'd like to just speak to, like, from the very start of the day. So if you're doing a day or a whole retreat, which you do for a week, right? Yeah, 7-day retreat. What is a Huachuma ceremony with you guys? What does it look like from the start to the finish of a day?
So we like to start around 9:30 in the morning, usually. And we kind of share a little bit about the medicine, share a little bit about the day, about the process, say an opening prayer, and then serve the medicine. Every person drinks one at a time, stating their intentions first, to kind of have an anchor throughout the day. And once everyone's drank, we usually let the medicine kind of digest, come into the bloodstream, and that takes about 45 minutes to an hour. Usually after that we'll start kind of playing some music. We also always have art material available in the ceremony for people that want to explore that, because it's a creative channel basically. And when you open it on the medicine, it's very easy to continue doing that in your daily life without the medicine. And it's one of the many ways that spirit likes to express himself. And then every ceremony is always different. It depends what people are going through, what kind of processes, what kind of healing they're looking for. We're very well trained in energy work. If someone's having a hard time, we can always help. And usually around 3 in the afternoon, we go into this dome we have here.
Yeah.
There.
Pretty amazing.
And the acoustics in there are amazing.
Yeah.
You know that everything is frequency and vibration. And when your intention is aligned for the healing, for the common good, and your voice is open, and your ego's out of the way, you can really help someone cut negative attachments, remove like heavy energies, and basically really raise someone's vibration through your intention and through the songs that are coming through in the moment, that are always different. They're received through intuition. Like I said, getting the ego out of the way so that the spirit of the plant and the spirit of God that lives within each and every one of us can come and express itself, because it's a higher intelligence and a higher power, and it knows what frequencies are needed, what kind of notes. It's not like we're in control and we have books and books and someone's going through, say, a shaking release, because sometimes trauma gets released through shaking. And it's not like we're like, oh, shaking chapter number 12. It's this particular song. It's all in the moment. It's all very intuitive. One thing I know that it works 100%. We've been working with people for a long time, and it always kind of baffles us how powerful this is.
Yeah, and I can vouch for that. I've been blown away many times. I've had many rebirths at this point. So the grounds of Kinsapacha is where we are. So that's where the retreats are held, and that's where, you know, you stay on the grounds. They're beautiful, beautiful rooms, absolutely fantastic. So beautiful and peaceful, the grounds here. And maybe later on I'll actually be interviewing the owner of these grounds, and you can hear more about them on another podcast. But what I would like to know also is, because I have experienced retreats where we've had large, not specifically Huachuma, but large groups of people, like, you know, 19, 20, 24, 25, and that's not you, right? How many do you have maximum wise?
We like to cap it at 7. 7 ground maximum, because we like the groups to be small, to be intimate. It makes it easier for people to open up, to be vulnerable, and it makes it also easier for us to really go deep with everyone, grow a strong connection with everyone that comes through the door. And it feels more authentic. Like I said before, our main objective with this is the healing. So we're not trying to get 20 people in here so that we can make that times more money and all that kind of thing. You know, it's really about healing everyone that comes through this door. And groups above 7 are harder to manage energetically.
Yeah, and that's one thing I have to say from my heart that I think is exceptional about yourself and Gary, is the level of integrity that you guys have. I mean, it's literally the divine working through these healers, and I really honor and respect that so much, Theo, so thank you so much for that. I know that you have others within your team. Would you like to speak a little bit about the other people who are part of your team?
Yeah, for sure. So in the 7-day retreat, we have a few hikes, because the Sacred Valley is such a beautiful place, and there's a lot of ancient energetic spots. Some of them are even more than ancient. And my old friend Raphael, he's a very experienced tour guide and a mystical seeker as well, and he knows these places inside and out, and so we're very happy to work with him. His English is perfect, and his wisdom is very, very deep, and it's a good balance of activities as well. To be in ceremony one day, and then the next day you get to rest in the morning and the afternoon. You get to get out of the grounds and go to one of these spots, these ruins.
Yeah, brilliant. And then
we also, some people who suffer from physical ailments, and also some people that just want the benefit of this medicine, the combo frog. That is very, very healing. And it works well with in conjunction with a Huachuma retreat. So we offer that, not to everyone, for anybody who wants. It doesn't last very long, but it's pretty intense. It's a very deep cleaning of the physical body.
Yeah.
And it's the frog it's poison from a frog, basically, that lives in the rainforest. And our friend Hector has been working with this animal for years, and he's very dedicated. As well, you'll see countless circles around the valley, around the world, where they'll have like 15, 20 people, and the maestro goes around and applies it to everyone at the same time. But Hector just does it with one person. So he'll apply to one person and he'll sing to that person until they're back, until the process is done, and then move on to the next. Because he likes to focus all his energy on one person at a time. And live in the Sacred Valley, a lot of people do it here, and he's the only one I trust. So that's the reason he works with us.
Yeah, and of course you're always available to discuss, and I think that's the beauty about having a small group as well, that you can really get to know people and get to sense whether it is right for them or not, and that's perfect. So you've had vast experience. You've been doing this for a long time, as has Gary, and I know that you have, including yourself and myself, seen dramatic changes and transformation within people. Can you maybe give us a couple of examples that stand out in your mind?
Sure. This was, I think, 6 years ago. An old friend of Gary's came to visit us from Scotland. I think he stayed 3 weeks. And he'd been on antidepressants for 8 or 9 years. And he struggled with depression a lot, with this medication he was taking that just made him very numb. And so we started working with him with Huachuma and energy work, and he got rid of all his tablets and spent a month with us doing several ceremonies. And I remember there was always moments when especially in the morning, where he'd get like, he'd call it a really fuzzy feeling in his brain as he was coming off the drugs, and we'd do energy work on him and then drink more medicine. And by the end of that month, he was clean, he was clear, and that was 6 years ago. He hasn't gone back on them since.
Yeah.
So that was very beautiful to watch, and to have little updates every now and again of how he's doing. And yeah, I mean, there's a long list. There's a long list of people. The ones in a way you can see the most are the ones that have had like serious addictions, because the addiction is a symptom basically of something deeper. This other guy that came, he was at a ayahuasca retreat for 2 weeks, and he couldn't drink the medicine because he hadn't weaned himself beforehand.
The drugs.
And there's some really dangerous interactions with the MAOIs and the ayahuasca. So at the end of his 2 weeks retreat, we were hosting a Huachuma ceremony in that space, and he was invited. And I can say, and he can say also, that day kind of changed his life. He was able to realize a lot of things, a lot of the roots of his addiction, and I recommended he go home and he keep working with the plant a little bit. So I gave him some dried chips and told him how to cook it, because in those cases you need to kind of keep at it to enjoy the benefit. And if he'd had like 3 ceremonies with us, it was different, but it was kind of just the timing. So he went home, had a very, very short relapse that I knew really showed him that 100% he wanted to change. And he took the chips I gave him and went to a little cabin and did several ceremonies on his own, and he's been really good. He's worked through a lot. He's in a very good place now. And there's many more stories of people transforming like that.
And I know that person personally myself, and I have seen amazing healing, and actually shared ceremony with him. And I can say for myself, just being here on the camera and doing this interview, I think that's one of the specialties of you guys. And I know Gary loves working with women, and I think a lot of females have been shut down. Their throat chakra has been closed. They haven't been able to be themselves, to speak their truth, to be able to say no when they need to, and to really honor their truth and speak their truth. So that's one of the things that I've definitely benefited from. Just actually being here doing this right now is huge for me. So I thank you so much. I thank you so much. And one of the questions that has come up a lot, and I've noticed actually from previous retreats and people that I've discussed plant medicine with in general, is it is important. So if it's more spiritual, it's more growth, spiritually expansion, you know, the importance of setting an intention. But a lot of people are confused between what an intention is and what a goal is. Could you maybe elaborate on the difference?
Yeah, so an intention is it's like your aim, you know, but it's not only the goal, it's the whole path that's leading you to that goal. It's a way of keeping you anchored on that path, because we are human and we get distracted, and we sometimes fall off the path, and the intention helps bring you back to that. It's all about the journey, really. The objective doesn't really matter. It's like that kind of saying, peace is not the destination, it's the way we walk. It's the same with intention, where the goal doesn't actually even matter that much, because the goal removes you from the present moment, and it's kind of something that seems far away. It's hard to reach, whereas your intention is the present moment.
Yes.
And we all want to be happy, you know, we all want to be fulfilled, we all want to have a purpose. And an easier way to get there is to revisit that intention as much as possible, every moment in the ceremony and before and after as well.
Yeah. I also find the integration process is much more simple, I would say, than other plant medicines that I have experienced. And that one of my, personal interests is the integration process. I find that you naturally take inspired action. This is what I'm doing, inspired action right now. So that flows very naturally with the Huachuma experience, that medicine. So it's been life-changing for me. But what would you say, if there's anything else that you wanted to add that I have maybe forgotten? Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Theo?
Well, as you're talking about integration, because most people have now heard about ayahuasca and the research with psilocybin mushrooms and all these things are really coming out. However, there's challenges integrating any medicine, and a little example with ayahuasca, you're in a very visionary state, a trance you can call it, and it's usually done in the dark, so the next day can feel a little bit like a dream, like you're having to put these pieces together. Also a lot happens, and it can be very hard to understand the messages of it. The pre-Columbian cultures in South America talk about the snake, the puma, and the condor, and the snake is the underworld, and that's the ayahuasca. It's the messages from the spirit world, the underworld, and they take time, and they can be challenging to integrate. The Huachuma is Puma medicine, which means it's in this world, in this reality.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're conscious, you can function. Even though you might be a little bit dizzy sometimes, you're still in your body. You're not blasted off in some foreign dimension or galaxy. So the insights and the wisdom that are coming through the plant in the moment during the experience are a lot easier to bring back to your daily life because you're already in your body when you're receiving them. Whereas ayahuasca, sometimes you don't even have a body when you receive this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're back to yourself and you're like, you don't even know how to start the journaling about the experience. You know, it can be so much. However, I do also love the plant ayahuasca. It's given me a lot. But if I were to, it's hard to compare them. They're very different. But the Huachuma is just as powerful. It's very underestimated. Also because a lot of the tradition's been lost through the Spanish conquest and all this kind of thing, where the tribes in the jungle were kind of isolated enough to be able to keep their ayahuasca tradition safe. With Huachuma, we're kind of inventing it as we go, and a lot of places and a lot of the shamans do very, very good work, and they also don't necessarily know how to cook that medicine to be very, very strong, to be as strong as, or stronger than ayahuasca. It's visionary aspects, although that happens in the body at the same time.
Yeah.
Not being too confusing.
No, that makes absolute sense. And I would say that, you know, it is a heart calling. It is really a heart calling. If you are feeling that calling, you're trusting your heart, your intuition. It's not a head analysis. It's beyond that. So it is for those people who are ready, who are willing to do the work, who are called to the medicine. And there are many roads to the divine, like the tree of life. But for us in this discussion, we truly believe in Huachuma. But there is a little bit of preparation needed for that. So maybe if you can speak a little bit about that preparation.
I mean, it's like anything spiritual or transformational you're getting into, the results will be exponential if there's good preparation and integration. There's the food is the medicine. We are what we eat, so we highly recommend before a retreat or ceremony people to abstain from red meats, from pig, from processed foods, from these saturated fats, from these refined sugars, coffee as well. And just to make a little bit of a sacrifice for your own healing, and maybe you have to stop drinking coffee or eating ice cream, or maybe you're a big fan of bacon. These things are worth letting go of for your own transformation, to live a happier life. And we recommend a week at least before. More is better. Also alcohol and hard drugs. As well as sex. Sex is a very powerful energy, and the cleaner you can be before you come into a retreat with plant medicine, the deeper the plant is going to be able to go. And if you've been conserving your sexual energy for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks beforehand, you'll have a lot more energy available for your own healing. And these kind of pre-diet also transfers to the post-diet, where the amount of work and dedication you can put into your own process, to your own transformation and healing, the effects will be long-lasting, and it won't feel like a sacrifice, or it won't feel hard after a little bit, because you'll really feel the benefits of these things.
And just practically on a very basic level. The day before you drink Huachuma, it's very important, obviously, to be very well hydrated also.
Yes.
Yes.
It's important to hydrate well, to eat healthy, but to eat well. Because during the ceremony we recommend for when there's no eating until late afternoon, where we share a little bit of watermelon, because that fruit is very light, so it doesn't interfere with the medicine. But the amount of time that's spent in the kitchen refining this brew, we basically spend like 10 or 12 hours cooking the water out of it. And obviously if someone gets really like dry in the mouth and dehydrated, they can have little sips, but we recommend to spend like the first 6 to 8 hours, no food, no drink, unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
So that the medicine can work deeper. Basically.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's been a really great explanation about the medicine and how you guys work. You know, the practice is called the Feathered Serpent. So it's the featheredserpent.com, is that right?
Feathered Serpent Retreats.
Retreats.com. And you can also find dates for the retreats on retreat.com, is that right?
Retreat Guru.
Retreat Guru. All right, I'm ready. And yes, so you've got planned retreats and dates upcoming from now on. Okay, that's great. And so we're sending this out to friends that we already know and love, and who know us both personally and know especially the level of integrity that Theo and Gary bring to their work. So we're so grateful for your time and for listening, and we would really love if you would spread the word and send this to who you feel is ready and willing to do the work and who is called to do the work. And thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Theo.
Thank you.